Today we'll be talking about Bruce McArthur and where he is now. McArthur is a 70-year-old man. He was born on October 8th, 1951. McArthur spent most of his life as a kid in Woodville, Ontario, a small town just northeast of Toronto. He lived on a farm and went to a one-room schoolhouse. McArthur wasn't so popular in school because he was considered a teacher's pet, a tattletale, or as some kids would call it these days, a snitch or a snake. He never got into trouble, but he would tell on the ones who were. In 1970, McArthur got married to his high school sweetheart, Janice Campbell. Janice and McArthur had 2 children together, and by the early 1990s, he was working as a travel salesman, stocking socks and underwear in the northern Ontario. Not only that, but during that time, McArthur decided to come out to his wife and kids. During that time, they were living in Oshawa, a small city also in Ontario. Bruce decided to leave Janice in 1998 or 1999. He then moved to Toronto to start his new life as a gay man and live in the gay village. McArthur decided to start his own business as a landscaper and even pick up a little side gig as a Santa for the Christmas holiday. In 2001, McArthur assaulted a man with a pipe from the gay village, which then got him kicked out in 2003, and he was no longer allowed to step 1 foot in the community. In 2003, McArthur went to trial for that assault and had to get a psychological report, which was to see if he would commit any more acts. He then passed and was released. McArthur continued his job as a landscaper, but in 2010, he had some other plans. McArthur decided to get into a relationship with a 40-year-old man whose name was Skandra Naverdam. Naverdam moved to Canada in the 1990s as a refuge from Sri Lanka. It was hard for him to come out, so he joined a gay community in Toronto. McArthur decided to tie him up to a metal pole and strangle him until he was gone. Then once he was gone, McArthur put him in certain positions, added a fur coat and a cigar, then took pictures of him. Not only that, but McArthur was a necrophiliac, which means he performed sexual acts to the corpse. And when he was finished, McArthur would chop him up and bury him in his client's gardens. McArthur did not only do that to Naverdam, but he did that to 7 others. Naverdam's friend did report him missing once he didn't come home to feed his new puppy. Now let's talk about those other 7 victims. Abulbsir Faizi. Faizi was 42 and married. He was a loving father of 2 girls, and he divided his life between the Toronto suburb of Brampton, where he lived, and his social life in the gay village downtown. His family did report him missing in 2010, but because they didn't know about the ties to the village, his disappearance largely flew under the radar of Toronto's LGBT community. Majid Kahan, like Faizi, Kahan was believed to have lived 2 separate lives, one with his family and one in the village. Kahan was an Afghan immigrant and the youngest of many siblings. He had a wife and children and also frequented many of the bars in the village, and he kept an apartment in the area. His adult son reported him missing in the autumn of 2012 when he could no longer reach him. By the 3rd murder, police did find it suspicious that 3 people from the gay village all seemed to have just vanished. There was still no lead at the time in 2013. When police started looking into it, they actually questioned McArthur, not as the killer, but as a witness. Why, you may ask? It's because they linked McArthur to both of them through an online dating website. Soroush Mohammadi, age 50. Mohammadi was a refugee from Iran who had a wife and children. His wife reported him missing because when they went to bed, she woke up and he was gone. They waited for hours, but he never came home, so she reported him missing. Karush Kumar Kanganardam was 37 and came to Canada in 2010, looking for a better life, but unfortunately he passed in 2016. No one reported him because of all the family thought he was hiding with a friend from the police. Due to the fact he was a refugee, Dean Lizowick. Lizowick was 47 years old and struggled with substance abuse. He went missing in 2016, but no one reported him missing because they all thought he was on the streets or even in the sex trade. Lizowick wanted to get a life together with his daughter, but he was never able to. In 2016, McArthur was arrested for trying to strangle a man in his car, but McArthur says it was all a misunderstanding, so police let him out with a warning because they thought he was credible. Selam Izan. Izan was 44 and came from Turkey in 2013. He also joined the LGBT community and in Toronto and then disappeared in 2017. His friend reported him missing because he knew something was wrong when Izan didn't text him back, due to the fact they were always texting. Andrew Kinsman. Kinsman was 49 when he went missing in August of 2017. It sparked the LGBT community because Kinsman wasn't active around the village. Not only that, but now it made it clear that there was a killer in the community. Toronto police found Kinsman's diary, but what they found in that was a lead. They found Bruce on the pages and on the calendar. There were also some clues when they looked at the security footage of Kinsman's home. They found out that there was a van in the parking lot that day he went missing. They started to look in it more and found out that the van belonged to McArthur himself. When police searched McArthur's van, they found traces of Kinsman's blood inside the van, but they didn't arrest him because there wasn't enough evidence. So the Toronto police kept a close eye on him because now he's a suspect. In December of 2017, officers secretly searched McArthur's apartment and found pictures of all the men that McArthur has murdered. McArthur was then caught on January 18th of 2018 in his home. You could never guess what they found. Well, if you were thinking another dead body, you'd be surprisingly wrong, but close. They found a potential 9th victim chained to his bed. That man's name is Sean Cribben. I couldn't find any backstory, so I'll be talking about him more when we get to the court. During trial, Faizy's wife told the court that her daughters cried when he went missing, and often still do. Not only that, but she's struggling to take care of her children without help she once had. I have not comprehended how this crime happened, she said. It has consumed the majority of my thoughts, Kayhan's brother told the court. Mohammedi's wife made a statement as well in the court. She called him her soulmate and said she has been overwhelmed by grief as his brutal slaying. King Gardam was close with his family and talked to them regularly. The court heard family members describing in the court statements the shock and the pain they felt upon learning of his fate. Lizowick's daughter made a statement to the court saying, "I will always have to live with knowing that I will never have a relationship with my father." Lizowick's cousin told the court that his face lit up when he spoke about his daughter and that he hoped to get his life together so he could do more with her. His uncle told the court that even then, he would still occasionally send cards to his mother that had been searched out carefully for their express of love. McArthur was intentionally charged with the murders of Izan and Kingsman after searches of McArthur's home and workplace turned up evidence including human remains of the other missing men. He was charged with 6 more murders on January 29th in 2019. McArthur pled guilty to the 8 counts of first-degree murder. He's serving 8 current life sentences. Bruce will be 91 in 2043, which is when he can apply for parole. Also, some other things. The police weren't able They weren't sure if Bruce had committed more crimes, but they do think he did.